Well, good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you all to the February 11th, 2026 meeting of the Brentwood Planning and Zoning Commission. If you could please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible. Thank you. Mr. Moran, if you could please call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Hart Nelson.
Here.
Paul Moran's here. Jack Shelton.
Here.
Jeff Moore.
Here.
Matt Foreman.
Here.
Carl Carlin.
Here.
Brian Nolan. Here. Lisa Shearing.
Here.
Mark Vavaza.
Here.
Jeff Hunt. No. John Nuremberger. No. Sherry. Right. We have a quorum, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Moran. Next item of business is the approval of the agenda. The agenda has been distributed. Are there any amendments or changes that need to be made to the agenda? If not, any objection to approval by acclamation? Seeing none, the agenda stands approved. Next item of business is approval of the minutes from our January 14th, 2026 meeting. Those minutes have been distributed. Are there any changes or adjustments that need to be made to the minutes? Any objection to approval by acclamation? Seeing none, the minutes from January 14th are approved. Next item of business are citizen comments. These are for citizens wishing to address the commission on items not on the agenda this evening. Do we have anyone wishing to address the commission on items not on the agenda? Anyone online? All right, next item of business is old business. This is a public hearing on the adoption of the commercial design guidelines. Mr. Brand, are you here? Thank you.
Yes, sir. Bear with me just a moment while this thing gets started up. Sorry, I have a little bit of technical difficulties with this thing.
Help is on the way.
Thank you. All right, well, thank you, everyone. I'm sorry for the momentary delay there while that started up. So this is the presentation of the final revised draft commercial design guidelines. Since I know you all have seen this 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 times so far, I just want to go through kind of a brief overview, really highlighting the changes that have been made over the last several months since our kind of last round of community and elected official and appointed official engagement starting in November of last year. So again, just as a reminder, if adopted, these commercial guidelines would apply to the GC, RSC, UD, PD, and LID zoning districts. These are largely modeled on the design guidelines that are currently part of the MC Manchester Corridor District, just with some applicable updates and revisions to these new districts. And One of the things as well, in addition to the guidelines themselves, the document that's up for adoption as an addendum to the comp plan does include recommendations for updates to Brentwood's zoning code in the commercial districts. Of course, those zoning code updates would not go into effect with adoption of this as an amendment to the comp plan, but one of the major objectives of the zoning code updates is to address some issues related to building siting and parking requirements, particularly on small lots and particularly along Brentwood Boulevard. These are 3 examples of properties that have largely been rendered unimprovable because of the requirements to comply with the zoning code's current parking recommendations. And so we have made recommendations to help overcome that issue, which I'll get to in a moment. So contents and organization, we start off with purpose and administration. Again, this explains the applicability, the Planning and Zoning Commission review. We have added language for optional architectural review board review should the city wish to put commercial developments into the purview of the ARB. And then also conditions for administrative review that are similar to what you all adopted as part of the residential design guidelines last year. Then the design guidelines go through a variety of topics related to building design. That includes materials. I will point out one change that was made based on feedback from this board was moving face-sealed exterior insulated facade system assemblies from prohibited minor materials to permitted minor materials. So you see that highlighted there in magenta. Then sections on building details, design features and structures, building entrances, some examples of good practices in Brentwood today of incorporating those features. Facade articulation, building roof line, again, some examples of those. Bicycle and pedestrian access guidelines for windows and doors. The doors section is another section that was updated based on feedback from our public open house. And it basically states that while commercial storefronts are required to have clear glass doors, it states that retail storefronts, I should say, other commercial storefronts, including offices, service businesses, and eating and dining establishments, can also use solid doors of wood or metal of a design that's complementary to the building and approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission. So allows for some additional flexibility in non-retail storefronts. And again, some examples of good window and door design on existing projects. And then signage guidelines. One addition here, again, from feedback we received at the public open house, was to prohibit billboards within the RSC, GC, PD, and LID districts. And this basically brings those districts in conformance to the prohibition of billboards in the Manchester Corridor MC district. Again, some examples, good examples of signage and how it can be integrated into building design. Then the third section, Section C, deals with site design. So guidelines for outdoor seating, provision of plazas and large patio areas, wayfinding signage and features, and public art. And some examples of site design. Again, although we've talked about this in the past, I will draw your attention to the image on the right, which is storefronts along Clayton Road in Clayton. And that is from back of sidewalk to front of facade is a 20-foot setback. So keep that in mind when we get to the zoning update recommendations. Then continuing on with site design, recommendations for building placement. Again, this section was updated. There was language that was removed from the third bullet point to basically allow for some additional flexibility. So it now states that buildings on corner lots should include a prominent architectural feature or emphasis at the corner, Previously, it stated a greater height than the rest of the roof, but that was felt to be too restrictive in terms of prescribing design solutions, so that was removed. Guidelines on utility service, screening of building service areas. Again, some examples in this case of corner features on buildings in Brentwood. And then guidelines on landscaping, which the full guidelines include permitted tree species based on what is in other portions of the city's code of ordinances, requirements for a front landscape zone. And here you can see examples of, on the left, really no front landscaping to speak of, versus on the right, a front landscape zone on a new project. And then finally, lighting. And this section was also revised. There was some sort of contradictory, confusing language about required color temperature for LED bulbs on site lighting, and so that was removed. They are basically now limited to 3,000 degrees Kelvin. It's really kind of unclear why that 4,800 was put in there, because it was really very contradictory, but that was removed to make that more clear. And then finally, the final section, Section D, dealing with parking and access. So this talks about requirements for traffic study. It looks at guidelines to minimize access driveways as they interrupt the sidewalk on the building frontage, guidelines for internal circulation driveways, separated cross-access for vehicles and pedestrians, vehicular cross-access between parcels, pedestrian cross-access between parcels, and internal circulation driveways for loading and service. Finally, a quick summary of the recommended zoning code amendments. So the main principle behind this, and we actually provide two approaches to achieve this, is to standardize the front, side, and rear setback requirements across all of the commercial zoning districts. And we are recommending that as part of future zoning code amendments, that for lots with frontages on Brentwood Boulevard and Hanley Road, that the minimum front yard, the current minimum front yard setback would be replaced with a front yard build-to line of 20 feet. And on Manchester Road, the existing minimum front setback would be replaced with a front yard build-to line of either 20 feet or 50 feet, and that parking could be located in between the front of the building and Manchester Road for those 50-foot front setbacks. And then further, when that 50-foot front setback is utilized on Manchester Road, there would be a requirement to have a pedestrian sidewalk with a minimum width of 8 feet that's located directly in front of the build-to line. So essentially you would have a secondary pedestrian zone right in front of the building to again promote cross pedestrian access between parcels, and then an amendment of the side and rear yard minimum setbacks to 12 feet. So we've gone through a variety of iterations of different lot sizes, but this is one sort of typical lot size configuration showing how those recommended updates would impact the buildable area of the site. In effect, what you're doing is, by reducing that front setback, you are providing a greater buildable area, which will help to make some of those smaller parcels more easy to redevelop or improve. Then some additional recommended zoning code amendments, updating the building bulk requirements to a maximum height of 2.5 stories with a minimum 12-foot rear yard setback. If that rear yard setback is increased to 50 feet, then the maximum building height could be increased to 4 stories. And if on larger lots, if that minimum rear yard setback was increased to 100 feet, then the maximum building height would increase to 6 stories. And then we're also making a recommendation that minimum parking requirements could be waived for all lots with a depth of less than 165 feet, subject to a parking and access study and parking plan approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission. And then finally, last time, we did talk about a potential recommendation of amending the light industrial district to include all of the permitted uses in the MR, RSC, and GC commercial districts, as well as motels and hotels. Upon further discussion and input from city staff, we are no longer recommending that that be included as a recommended zoning code update, but rather that diversification of uses within the light industrial district moving forward would be handled on a case-by-case basis via rezoning or implementation of the planned development overlay. So that concludes my presentation, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Brand. Any questions from members of the commission? Appreciate the presentation and especially the clarifications on what's been changed. So this is a public hearing as well. Are there any members of the public that wish to address the commission on this item? There have also been other public hearings as well, but since it is a public meeting, I thought we would make that opportunity available. Seeing none. Next item of business, and I believe would be a motion to approve this. This would be a resolution from the commission, and that's something we don't do very often, I guess, is have a resolution from us. Is there a motion for the resolution? Sorry, please.
Just to clarify, we do have people that join via Zoom, so I don't know if we asked if anyone on Zoom wished to discuss this, make a comment on this item.
Thank you, Ms. Kelly. Anyone joining the meeting virtually wishes to address the commission on the commercial design plan, or guidelines, excuse me? Hearing none. All right. Is there a motion on the floor?
Mr. Chair, there's a 2-page resolution in the documents. Typically, staff report says there's a motion. Is the resolution motion to adopt as written?
I believe that could be the motion, Ms. Moore.
I would be happy to put forward the resolution as noted in the attachments.
We have a motion from Mr. Foreman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Carlin. I think actually, we'll do a roll call vote on this. I think voice vote may be enough for resolution, but we'll do roll call if you wouldn't mind, Mr. Moran.
Yeah, certainly. Mr. Chairman, Jack Shelton,
Yes.
Jeff Moore,
Yes.
Matt Foreman,
Yes.
Brian Carlin, sorry, Carl Carlin,
Yes.
Brian Nolan,
Yes.
Lisa Shering,
Yes.
Mark Vazza,
Yes.
Paul Moran, yeah. Unanimous, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Moran. We don't do those very often. So that will move forward with a resolution, which I guess we'll sign this evening. Thank you. Next item of business, this is new business. This is case 2601, comprehensive sign plan for an amendment for veterinary emergency group ER for pets at 2101 South Brentwood Boulevard. The applicant has requested to postpone this to the March meeting. Is there a motion to table this until the next meeting?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Carlin. Is there a second?
Second.
A second by Mr. Moran. Voice vote, I think, is good for this. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. That will be tabled until March. Next item of business is case 2602. This is the site development plan for Candiva Drug Delivery, chiller equipment, sound enclosure at 2555 Hermelin Drive. Is the applicant or their representative here this evening?
I am here.
All right, excellent. If you could state your name, your address just for the record, and tell us a little bit about your application this evening.
Sure. My name is Dennis Johnson. I am with Candiva Drug Delivery, 2555 Hermelin, here in the beautiful city of Brentwood. We are proposing a sound attenuation barrier for our 300-ton chiller. I have a representative from CRB with me, kind of explain all the details. We have challenged them to give us 49.9 dBA at our property line, and they feel like they're up to the task. So they've designed a great sound attenuation barrier, and I'm looking forward to getting that installed.
Great. All right. Thank you, Ms. Johnson. If you'd like to have the representative just briefly explain it, we obviously have the information as well, and then we'll go to staff report.
Hello, my name is Craig Busher. I'm a mechanical professional engineer with CRB Engineering, and I've been working on this project for a little while now. We have retained an acoustical consultant to help us design the wall to achieve the 49.9 decibels at the property line as indicated in the design criteria. The chiller currently sits on an elevated platform. Our plan is to build 3 sides of that platform, a sound wall using sound attenuation panels. The exterior of the sound attenuation panels are painted steel. It looks like a steel insulated panel. It's sandwiched with insulation, and they are designed to knock down with an STC class to knock down the sound accordingly. Above the platform, we will build the wall will be about 15 feet tall, so it'll be tall enough to enclose the sound around the unit. And then below the platform, we plan on hanging sound blankets. So because the chiller is in a floodplain, we cannot do new foundations, so we're going to be hanging sound panels, blankets off of the chiller platform, thus to enclose all the sound coming out the bottom of the chiller and as well on the sides.
Thank you, Mr. Busher.
Yeah, our sound expert is taking 3D sound measurements around the site and is modeling it with the computer to make sure that we achieve the goals of the design.
Thank you, Mr. Busher. We'll go to staff report. If we have more questions from the commissioner, members will ask you to step back up, but rather than have you stand there while we get staff report, Ms. Kelly, please.
As this gets going, I'll just discuss. As the applicant has indicated, this is to address a longstanding sound violation of the chillers. They were installed in 2015, and in recent years, the chillers seem to have been, at that time, the report indicated they would operate within the city's regulations. However, they've been operating outside of that. So they are here to hopefully address that. The chillers were placed within the floodway, but they were elevated 4 feet above the base flood elevation. So we are still working with FEMA on that regulation, but we wanted to move this forward to get your input and approval. So as you can see here,
It's not up on screen, Ms. Kelly.
so as you can see here, this is the chiller platform at the very right, and it would extend 15 feet. And because it is in the floodway, the curtain would extend below, and ultimately that we're still working on FEMA on that portion of it. It will require, as part of any building permit, a floodplain permit and an engineer no-rise with hydraulic information provided. So the material, because the light industrial district does indicate the use of metal, however, given this unique situation, and it is meant to, it does say that you can have rooftop equipment to use this as a sound barrier, and this is essentially creating that sound barrier. We feel that that is consistent with this, the use of the material is consistent with the design requirements of the zoning district. So it will be very tight in with the existing chiller. You can see that here. This is the rendering. And the goal of, as the applicant has indicated, is that the equipment would then buffer the sound to be less than 49 decibels to comply with the city's zoning sound barrier, noise abatement, sorry. And then, you have any other questions?
And Ms. Kelly, modeling is very good, and they're getting better and better at it, but obviously want to make sure that once this is completed, that it does what it was intended to do. Is the city or the landowner going to then test again? How will that be ensured?
Yes, we'll require that it be tested again, and we can actually amend the draft conclusion if you wish to include that. It be tested to ensure compliance with the zoning.
I think it's requirement of city ordinances already
Yeah.
to not violate it. May be belt and suspenders, but just wanted to make sure that that is part of it as well, since testing is again, simulation helps quite a bit, but we want to make sure it is in fact, since it's been a long-standing issue, it sounds like. Other questions from members of the commission? Mr. Foreman,
You knew I was going to ask.
I'm happy for you too.
For our engineer and attendance, I know you're not Burns and McDonald, but, so on the section in the diagram, you're showing about a 7-foot tall cooling tower chiller unit. It looks like you've got about 3'6" from the top of that unit to the top of the screen. Is that enough for the flanking noise to get over the top of this thing?
That's correct. That's the recommendation of our acoustical consultant.
Okay, so that's, because it says chiller by others, so I wasn't sure if the dimensions were accurate. So then I would, back to your point, if it measures, I'm always suspicious when the goal is 49 and the model shows 49.
Not a lot of margin for error. And that is from their property line, basically. It's 49 at the edge of their property
Well,
line.
the code requires that in the evening hours, it be less, and if the sound is more than 60 minutes, that it be less than 50 decibels. During the daytime hours, it's at 55. And so the applicant has indicated the goal is to go 49 at all times.
The report is showing no one's standing in the creek worried about the noise. There's Park 1, Park 2, and Residential 1 that are coming in at 49, residential 46, because we're getting extra distance. If it comes back, if it comes back high, I know we got airflow out of the top of the unit, is it still possible to extend the wall taller to get more attenuation?
That would be possible to modify it after the fact if it needed to be.
Okay. And you answered the question about why you were using the blankets instead of, so you couldn't go horizontal? Would that interrupt the airflow too much to go horizontal under the units?
Yeah, partially airflow, and then partially it's just the complexity of all the conduit and piping and access to the equipment underneath. Simpler to go straight down, and then actually it's a better envelope coverage as well.
Going to be a try it and see.
And test.
Very briefly,
Thank you, Mr. Foreman. Mr. Moore.
is there a benchmark? Do we know what the current
I think it was in the report, yeah.
Yes, that was in it's in the staff report. In October of 2023, the sound level of the plant running was measured at 71 decibels, and at 61 decibels in April when they put up a temporary structure until they could engineer a full design.
Thank you. It just gives me perspective.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Any other questions from members of the commission? Any questions from members of the public here this evening about this application? Anyone on, please, you need to come forward to the podium, please, state your name and address for the record.
Oh, thanks for entertaining our views here tonight. So my name is Laurent Tourneau. I own with my wife the house at 2499 Melvin Avenue, which I've owned since, I think, October 2001. So somewhere along the line, the noise from the industrial park has gotten much louder. did you say 2015 or 2016 was the chiller?
15, when this chiller was put in
15?
place.
So I believe they've been out of compliance for, what is it, 10, 11 years now? So that's a long time that our complaints, our neighbors, the Fishers, Ruth and Charles are here. Mr. Carlin, I don't know how long you've lived in your house, but he may be able to hear some of this noise from his backyard or his house, his living room. I can hear it from my front porch. Charles Fisher, he had obtained a decibel meter from a friend in an industrial environment that he worked with professionally. And we took some measurements, both from my front porch, from the park, from Oak Tree Park. The park is frequented by many people, children, adults, you know, and you go to a park, you don't expect to hear loud industrial noise. My point is, this has been going on for a long time. We're very grateful that the industry that's there is now finally taking measures to fix this issue. One of my questions is, what other industrial pollutants are they putting into our Brentwood environment that are going into that park? Are there chemicals? Are there gases that are being emitted into the park where our children play at the playground? Out of curiosity, is there a list of, maybe they are not outputting any chemicals whatsoever. I'd be glad to hear that. That would make me very happy. If in fact they are outputting chemicals, I know Mr. Nolan's children played with my children, as does Matt Foreman's, family. So I think that, that for the city of Warmth, we want to be aware of what environmental pollutants, including noise, are affecting our homes, our children, our parks. Oak Tree Park is immediately across the creek from this chiller and from this industry, this business. So I'm very thankful that they are taking steps 10 or 11 years later now. The temporary baffles that I believe, I don't know if that's an accurate description, have helped. The noise has diminished. I had my in-laws came over to my house and they were like, what in the world is that noise? How can you live like this? What is going on? And it's like you put a frog in a bowl of cold water on the stove and you slowly turn up the heat and maybe the frog doesn't realize that it's being boiled to death, right? That's where we were a couple of years ago. This noise was it was absolutely awful. Our friend and neighbor, John Miller, who takes care of many different birds around St. Louis, he's also concerned about noise, birds, light pollution, noise pollution, any sort of environmental factor that may not be necessary or welcome in the city of Brentwood. So those are just a few thoughts that I have. My main question is, are there other pollutants besides the noise pollution that's been going on for 10 or more years that are being put into our environment by this company that is now finally, 11 years later, taking steps to reduce the noise that they've been putting into my front yard, into my house, and affecting my children and my neighbors. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr.
I
Carl.
appreciate the opportunity to speak tonight.
Yep. And I will say just simply, Planning and Zoning Commission is not an enforcement agency. We're not an enforcement part. Those are issues that certainly can be taken up with the city and should be if you have concerns, but it's beyond the scope of Planning and Zoning Commission for those particular things. Here, what we have in front of us is a site plan, and so that's what we're going to take action on. And I am glad, I will say to what you said, very glad that this is being resolved. I do think 10 years is too long, but I'm glad that it is being resolved at this point rather than in 10 years from now. And that is why I believe that the commission has been made clear we'd like to make sure that this is tested once it's in place and that is in fact accomplishing what it's supposed to do. Any other members of the public wishing to address the commission this evening? Anyone online? Is there a motion from the commission?
Yeah, I move to recommend approval of the site development plans for the chiller sound abatement modifications for at 2555 Hermelin, subject to the conditions and discussion of this meeting.
Mr. Moran, just to clarify, do the conditions include testing once as completed?
Yes, testing regularly, yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Carlin. Roll call vote, please.
Jack Shelton.
Yes.
Jeff Moore.
Yes.
Matt Foreman.
Yes.
Carl Carlin.
Yes.
Brian Nolan.
Yes.
Lisa Shearing,
Yes.
Mark Avaza,
Yes.
and Paul Miranda. It's unanimous, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Moran. This will be referred to the Board of Aldermen in the date. What is the date? I forgot to look it up.
March 2nd.
The March 2nd. So this recommendation will go forward to them on March 2nd.
If not March 2nd, it would be March 16th.
Ms. Kelly will have all the details if you need to know for sure. Thank you very much. Next item of business is case 2603. This is Honey Coffee, a conditional use permit within the tenant space at 13 Promenade Court within the Brentwood Promenade Shopping Center. Is the applicant or their representative here this evening? Please, if you could come forward, please state your name and tell us a little bit about your application this evening.
Hi there, my name's Hai Tang, and I submitted an application to open a coffee and matcha shop at 13 Brentwood Promenade. My wife and I, we run Honeybee Tea, which is the next development over, for about maybe 3 years now, and we really like doing business in Brentwood, and saw that there was an opportunity to do coffee, the next plaza over, so we decided to, run with it. The existing business, it has been vacant. It used to be a Great Clips. It's been vacant for like over a year. So I think this would be good for that area, and we're excited to get involved in this venture.
Yeah, thank you. We'll go over to staff report, please, Ms. Kelly.
Yes. As the applicant has indicated, they will be taking up the former Great Clips location at 13 Brentwood Promenade. They are not making any changes to the exterior of the building or the site, so this is a simple conditional use permit. The site was originally developed in 1997, and this end cap was added in 2013, which reduced the overall parking of the entire center by 16 spaces. The space is 1,090 square feet, and all of the seating is on the inside, and there would be 3 employees at their business shift. Since they are not making any changes to the exterior of the building or the site, the review was limited to the overall parking. In 2012, there was a parking study completed for that end cap unit that was being added. And it found that the majority of the parking that is within the fields next to Target area, but there was still an excess of 500 parking spaces. With the role of all of at that time, there was 1,382 marked parking spaces, and doing a roll, the requirement of all the current tenants, the parking required for the entire site is 1,375. I did reach out to CBB, and he did not have a concern since the location is kind of out of the way, and therefore we did not do a updated parking study of the center, and therefore we do not have any concerns.
Dang, I assume this is also dine-in as well as takeaway for the coffee shop?
It is, although I think mostly it's going to be grab and go. I mean, I put seating in there, but like our tea shop, at the next plaza over, most people just, they want to grab and go. I don't know, for some reason people don't like to hang out too long. So, being on that end cap, I think there's always a lot of parking right there. I know Brentwood Promenade has an issue with, it's always busy, but on the end cap, it's always a lot of open spaces. So I don't think we'll really affect parking. And, mostly I think it's going to be grab and go. Although, I'd love for it to be super busy like a Starbucks. I don't think that's going to happen. But
all service is going to be inside the store, I guess, is the other piece I should have asked.
Correct,
You're not
yes.
doing car service coming out of the car.
Correct, yes.
Great. Other questions? Sorry, Ms. Kelly, was that?
Yes.
And a staff report, my apologies. Any questions from members of the commission? Very straightforward. Any questions on this petition from members of the public? Or anyone online? Is there a motion? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Sharing?
I move to recommend approval of the conditional use permit and site development plans for Honey Coffee at 13 Brentwood Promenade Court, subject to conditions and discussions of today's Planning and Zoning Commission meeting.
Yep, motion by Ms. Sharing. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Carlin, I believe. Roll call vote, please.
Chuck Shelton,
Yes.
Jeff Moore,
Yes.
Matt Foreman,
Yes.
Carl Carlin,
Yes.
Brian Nolan,
Yes.
Lisa Sharing,
Yes.
Mark Avaza,
Yes.
Paul Moran. Yeah, unanimous.
Thank you, Mr. Moran. So that, again, will be referred, their recommendation will go to the Board of Aldermen for their March meeting, and good luck on that. Thank you for your business in Brentwood.
Great.
Next item of business
you so
is
much.
case 26006. This is a site development plan for new 9-unit townhome development at 8815 Madge Avenue. Is the applicant or the representative here this evening? Again, if you could please state your name and address for the record, tell us a little bit about your proposal this evening.
I am Mark Doring, president of Doring Engineering. Just so everybody's aware, Doring Engineering, for the most part, closed down last year. However, there's still some projects we're finishing up, and when I say we, I am Doring Engineering, so I'm the only one, and I'm here tonight. So appreciate that. Whitney, I should grab the laptop and bring it over?
Yeah.
Okay.
He has a PowerPoint he'd like to show.
Okay.
Brought too much up. Great. Thank you again. Ashim Lamachummy, and I got to say that correctly, I apologize, is our leader on this, and this is his brother Aaron with us this evening. Ashim could not be here today. He has a very significant personal family problem.
Understand, I'm sorry to hear that.
No, okay, but he would be here because he's very interested in this, and his brother Aaron is part in the ownership of this development. He's here, so he would like to say a few words before we start. Thank you.
Please.
Good evening, Chair, Member of Planning and Zoning Commission. My name is Arun Lamishani, the property owner and applicants for the proposed 9-unit townhome development at 8815 Mass Avenue. I'll just take a few minutes. I want to thank City of Brentwood for their time to review this project, especially Whitney. We have been going back and forth with the design. Thank you so much. I'm very confident that you all will like our design, and we are excited for the next step. From here, Mark will take to the next step. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. So our site is located at the northwest corner, basically, of Brentwood Boulevard and Madge. We're actually back one parcel from Brentwood Boulevard itself. We're a second-tier property here. We are in the PD overlay district, Plan Development Overlay District, which does allow attached townhouses, and that's a permitted use, and that's why we're here this evening. The comprehensive plan is focused on pedestrian focus, workable areas, walkable areas, excuse me, okay? One thing that, there's a question in the comprehensive plan, but again, we've been working with staff through this, is that 2-story plus buildings, it requests that it has the lower unit being commercial and the upper unit possibly being residential. Our case, we have a 3-story building and it's all residential. But again, we're second tier from Brentwood Boulevard, and quite honestly, our market analysis says that you would do any commercial there, it would not be successful. In addition to us, without it being commercial, it gives us the opportunity to set our buildings back 50 feet from the adjoining residential property to the east, and allows us to create a 25-foot landscape buffer on that property line. So we think those additions are very positive for the city. Density, we're allowed 11 units by the straight density calcs. We are proposing 9 units, and I'll show you them shortly. And the staff report suggests more architectural detail on the front of our building face and Madge, and we are in agreement with that, and we're happy to work with staff to work that issue out. And I already messed it up, so here we go. So this is a picture from Madge, okay? That house is no longer there, that's been removed, okay? Again, we have basically two single-family lots here that we're putting together. The lot, it's vacant itself right now if you're to drive by it. Again, this is a picture more from Brentwood Boulevard, actually from the commercial development right in front of us, showing the house that's no longer there, and again, the vacant lot. There's a retaining wall that runs along our property line with a fence on top of that. We'll have a little discussion more later on, but that fence and retaining wall is on the adjoining property, not ours. Again, another picture from Madge here. The house on the right is gone. Our property line starts about 5 or 6 feet from the house on the left. The house is gone already, right?
No, it's still there.
Is it really? Did you really? Still there? So I'm getting a little older, but thank you. So, by the way, the house is still there. The rest of the stuff I tell you, I hope you can believe. Again, here's a picture from Brentwood Boulevard. You see the retaining wall, and you can see the house that is still there. Cool. And again, the retaining wall itself is on the adjoiner's property. This is our site plan. North in this situation is straight up. Brentwood Boulevard is to your right, and Madge is down on the bottom of the sheet, right there. We are proposing 3 buildings with 3 units each, which gives us a total of 9 units. We're proposing a 25-foot wide entrance on Madge at that location. And again, that entrance actually is 25 feet from the eastern parcel property line.
Oh, west.
We're proposing asphalt pavement for the parking lot, and that's correct, I got you. It is the west property line. So I'm having a difficult evening this evening, so stay with me. I'm 67. And in the front, we're having a 25-foot building setback to match the existing houses on the street itself, and the building line setback required along Madge. And we have a 14-foot setback on what is the front of the buildings. The front of the buildings will be facing Brentwood, basically. And we have nice architectural package on the front, and we'll be showing you that shortly. So our buildings itself sit back 50 feet from the west, thank you, west property line of where the existing residential's at. And then we have a continuous concrete sidewalk that runs along the eastern property line on our property. And we have a 25-foot heavenly landscape buffer adjoining the residential property to the west. So the city of Brentwood requires best management practice for stormwater control. We've already submitted our plans and have them substantially approved, but it's part of your approval too. They'll be located up in this area, and I'll speak to them shortly, a little more detail. And again, you have the adjoiner's retaining wall and a fence at that location along the eastern property line.
Mr. Dorning, is that your retaining wall and fence, or is that the commercial property?
That's the commercial properties.
Thank you.
Okay, it sits about a foot under their property.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought.
Okay, so, and this one I'm gonna need a little help on these screens, but, so just the development data, we have 0.55 acres, and our gross building area is 6,651 square feet of all the buildings, and a gross floor area, which is of each building is 6,600 square feet, and all 3 of them will be 19,953 square feet. So our floor area ratio, as required, is equal to 0.83, and our building coverage 6,651 square feet, which I'm having a problem reading it, but anyway, our site coverage ratio is 45.9%, which meets the city codes. And again, the parking spaces required, I erred on this one here, is 11. I'm sorry, the required parking spaces is 9, and the parking spaces provided is actually 18. We have 2 parking spaces in the garage. Each unit will have a 2-car garage. So 18 parking spaces underground, not underground, under the building itself. MSD requirements. So MSD has BMP requirements also. However, their requirements would not affect a parcel of this size. Basically, there's differential run calculations that you had to do. And if the differential storm runoff, the amount of water runoff that happens after development compared to pre-development, is greater than 2 cubic feet of water per second. So a cubic foot's 12 inches by 12 inches by 12 inches. If 2 of those would be passing a point, 2 cubic feet, okay, that would kick in MSD requirement for stormwater detention. However, because it's such a small amount of water, and that small amount of water would require such a small opening to hold it back, which would clog up relatively easy, MSD does not require any stormwater detention on this project, okay? And then again, MSD also has rain garden requirements, which you're seeing rain gardens, and you know what they are now. However, that's based on the land disturbance of a project. If you disturb more than 1.0 acres, then you're required to put water quality, which is a water cleansing product, on your development. And again, this property here is 0.55 acres. So MSD itself would have no requirements for stormwater detention or water quality, which are BMP's best management practices. With that said, the city of Brentwood still requires best management practices, okay? And those will be handled in an area right here in those 2 red squares, okay? And what that is what some people would refer to as an old French drain, where you dig a hole, you put rock in there, and the voids between the rocks will hold water back, which will act as detention in this case, and will not increase the runoff to the downstream areas because of the development. So even though MSD doesn't require it, City of Brentwood does, and we are handling it, and our plans have been reviewed already by the city engineer, and our underground storage, French drains, will be located in that area. You will not see them though. There will be grass above those areas. These are elevations. The front elevation of building number 1, and it's very similar to 2 and 3. And again, that's actually facing Brentwood Boulevard. So it's facing the east, okay? And then you can see the right elevation of the building, which would really be a building, the part you do not see from Madge, okay? And then the rear elevation is what you would see if you were looking from the residential area to the west of us, okay? And that's set back 50 feet coming off of there. The 3 units, they go straight up. They have a 2-car garage under each one of them. And then the last one is the left elevation, and that's what you'd actually see from Madge. We've added the porch to the side of the end unit on this one here to help with the architectural style of the building itself, but we're going to work that over a little bit more and come back with staff a little more work on that, okay? These are the floor plans. So up in the top is the first floor plan. The top part there, those are the 2-car garages, the big empty squares, and that's where we enter from the west on the drive there. You'll enter at grade, and you'll have a bedroom downstairs, okay? And then you have a set of stairs running you up to the 2nd floor, which will have the living room, the kitchen area. And then on all the units, you have a running up to the 3rd floor, which will have actually 3 additional bedrooms upstairs or studies, okay? Each floor on the first floor is 310 square feet plus the garage. The 2nd floor is 755 square feet. There's a slight overhang on the front part of the building, which also gives it some good architectural characteristics. And the 3rd floor is 755 square feet, which gives us a total of 1,820 square feet of living space. And then the 2-car garage is about 400 square feet of additional living space. The product that we're going to be selling here, we anticipate will be desirable to people starting out that want to be in Brentwood, want to stay in Brentwood. Just married, maybe starting a family, and we don't know whether they'll stay here a long time, but our marketplace is those people 25 to 35 years old. With the stairs, we do not anticipate older adults being interested in our product at all. But we'll sell them a unit if they want. The landscape plan, again, the main thing here, I think, is landscaping along this is now rotated. North is no longer up. North is to the left of our screen. Brentwood Boulevard would be to the top. Madge is to the right of this drawing here. The main thing is the heavy landscape buffer that's 25 feet along the west property at the bottom of your screen, buffer in the residential zoning district to the left there. We have additional landscaping between the buildings and on the sides of the buildings as shown. Staff has reviewed this. I think they are satisfied, and I can't say it 100%, but is that fairly accurate, Whitney, with the landscape plan? We pretty close?
Oh, we'll discuss that.
Okay, I'll let her say that, okay? And so then again, in summary, we're utilizing the existing planned development zoning overlay. We believe it's an excellent transition from commercial to a residential area. There's 25 foot landscape buffering to the adjoining residential parcel. Nice homes at a reasonable price for the city of Brentwood. We think it's good that people that grew up in Brentwood have a chance to stay here. Excellent proposal, and we think it'll be a good addition to the city. We appreciate your consideration of this project, and would be happy to answer any questions that you may have, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Doring and Mr. Lamachane. We're going to go to staff report, and then we'll have some questions for you most likely. Mrs. Staff report, Ms. Kelly.
Yeah, before we start the staff report, they do have material samples if you would like to pass those out.
That would be great.
So we got a shingle section and we got bricks. The vinyl section that's blown up is green. We're not using green, we're actually using the gray one. It's a smaller piece there. So just on the siding, it's a gray siding.
Ms. Kelly, go ahead.
Oh, yes.
Take it away. We'll multitask here a little bit.
Okay, thank you. As the applicants have indicated, they are seeking approval of a development of 9 townhomes with 3 units within 3 buildings. The property is zoned Plan Development Overlay District, and it is within the Brentwood Boulevard character area of the comprehensive plan, which encourages creating a pedestrian-friendly mixed-use and walkable compact town center area. And buildings are to be at or near the sidewalk and front property line, except corner locations to accommodate line of sight near the intersection. Furthermore, buildings over 2 stories in the town center should be mixed use with commercial on the ground floor and office and multifamily residentials above. As the applicant has indicated, the plan development overlay does allow as a permitted use townhomes and single-family homes and multifamily homes as well.
So we just have site plan in front of us.
So, yeah, so we are here for the site development plan. The subject property is non-conforming in that it is under an acre. However, residential use comprises of 80% to 100%. The total property land use is limited to 20 units per acre. Therefore, at 0.55 acres, this would allow up to 11 units, and they are proposing 9. With a maximum site coverage of 45.9%. The building is set back 25 feet with no front parking in the front, and that is consistent with both the B single-family residential district next door and the Plan Development Overlay District requirement. The side and rear yard setbacks are 10 feet. However, where adjacent to a residential zoning district, as we have here, the minimum is 50 feet setback with 25 feet of such landscape side yard where adjacent to the residential is landscaped. You can then have the parking or the drive access within the next 25 foot, and the building is at 50 feet. And they are consistent with that.
That's what's being presented, yep.
Yeah. And so overall, they are consistent with that. The building setback is also consistent with the Section 41380 that requires that any building over 2.5 stories or 35 feet in height or up to 4 stories have a setback of at least 50 feet of the building setback between the building and any single-family district. So they are also meeting with that requirement. The overall height of the building is 37.95 feet. Largely, the discussion is, and you're looking at the material, would be on the architectural design. And under the zoning code, section 41380, it does say that use of metal siding is prohibited, and where it is visible from Manchester Road, Brentwood Boulevard, Eager Road, or Hanley Road, and that abuts a property that is zoned or used for residential purposes, and they are not proposing any. The use of the materials is residential in character. The mechanical equipment is between the buildings, so there's at the ground floor, so it would not be on the roof. So therefore, it does not require any screening. Where there is commercial adjacent to residential, we do require a 6-foot solid fence, and they are proposing that. They initially proposed it at tan. They submitted, and it was updated in your packet, that changed that to a gray to be more consistent with the colors of the materials. So that is also for your review. And reviewing the residential design guidelines, it does talk about that new homes, and I looked at the residential design guidelines for this instance because of the character of the development, but it does talk about new homes should be oriented in the same way as most of the homes on the street or block. While the majority of the homes are faced to the east, they have tried to provide some front element along Madge. However, I felt that that could be greater enhanced. If that is the wish of the board, that should be a discussion that you can have with the applicant. And the design guidelines also recommend that any transitions between the street facing or side and rear facing are to use the same materials, with the majority of the front is where that's facing the side, actually South Brentwood Boulevard, has the majority of the architectural features. So that is up for y'all's review as well. Andy Frankie provided a review of the landscape plan that was not available by the time of the staff report on Friday, but he has updated that and included in the packet, so he is here to address those if you would like to hear from him.
We would like to hear from you, Mr. Frankie.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission. I'm Andrew Frankie. I'm a landscape architect with Planning Design Studio. We're the city's on-call landscape architect. We reviewed this plan. There were 2 submittals. You guys probably have in front of you the first letter. There's a second letter dated February 9th. Do you have that one in front of you as well? Okay. Yeah. There's been a few changes after that, and I'll go through those. So we usually review kind of general site plan issues, and then we go into the landscape plan. There are a couple of things that we noted on the general site plan. The first was a lighting plan. There was no lighting plan submitted, and we're always concerned about lighting spillover. The petitioner has submitted that plan. We reviewed it, and it looks like it's going to comply, so we shouldn't have any issues with lighting. Site-proof fence, Whitney talked about. They submitted a tan. Now they're resubmitting gray, which will be more consistent with the building. The third item with regard to the site plan is the fence, and this fence is a little bit tricky on this one because the fence along the east property line, half of it is wood and the other half of it is chain link, and the chain link part of it is actually cast into the top of the wall. And as Mr. Doring has said, the wall, and I'm not exactly sure on the ownership of this, I imagine the cast-in-place concrete wall is owned by the adjacent property owner, but I'm not sure about the fence that's actually behind the segmental retaining wall. So we probably ought to have some discussion about that. Our point was the petitioner is proposing one consistent fence along that property line, which is great, but it's going to be located behind at least the cast-in-place concrete wall. What we don't want is a chain link fence right next to a brand new fence. It just doesn't look real good. So we probably need a little bit of clarification from the petitioner on how that's going to be resolved. Landscape-wise, the petitioner has addressed most of our issues. We have one issue that's still unresolved as of right now, and that's the street trees along Madge. They originally proposed maple trees. We were concerned with that for 2 reasons. And basically, one, interference with the overhead electric lines. We asked them to resubmit. They resubmitted columnar horn beams. The issue with the columnar horn beams is it's close to the wires, not directly underneath, but we still felt the width of them might conflict, so we've asked them to come back with an additional, a resubmittal on that plant material. It's kind of easy to brush this stuff off and say, well, it's kind of away, they're young trees, but we're thinking longer term. I've seen way too many trees that look good the day you planted it, but in 20 years it's a real problem. They shave it off, it looks bad and everything else. So we want to make sure we get the right smaller tree in that location. It's a little bit tricky because if you get a smaller tree, the branches might be in the way of the sidewalk. So maybe the solution is a smaller tree, but you push it back a little bit so that you don't have interference along the sidewalk. So that's kind of the gist of our review. If anybody has any questions.
For irrigation going on along that fence line, Mr. Frankie, do you know?
There's irrigation. I don't know if it's directly along the fence line, but there's irrigation throughout the project. The plans that were submitted don't show the spray alignment, so we would assume that the petitioner wouldn't be irrigating over the fence line. It might hit the fence, but typically irrigation designers are pretty good about not irrigating a plastic fence per se, hopefully. If the commission is so inclined, we could ask for additional detail on actually the spray pattern on those, and we could review it if that's an issue.
My concern would simply be it looks like a robust landscape plan there, and I understand the intent. I just want to make sure it doesn't die.
They do have irrigation, which is good, and they're showing it on the planting plan. They're not relying on faucet and hoses, which is really good news, especially, because this looks like a very nice landscape, especially the buffer on the west side.
So we don't have to have people popping up and down all the time. Any questions for Mr. Frankie? Please, Mr. Carlin.
I'm just not sure what the nature of the plantings along the western edge are.
There are a variety of shrubs. I'll kind of read some of them off. The good thing is we've got some evergreens in there and some deciduous so that when all the leaves drop, there'll still be some screening. They have some Native American cherries. They've got American hollies, Norway spruce. They're also leaving some existing trees in there. Green giant arborvitae, which is probably everybody's favorite for screening neighbors. They don't want to see, they look like just green lollipops all the time through there. So there's kind of a mix of both in that zone. Mostly trees, not very many shrubs.
Mostly trees, not very many shrubs.
Right.
So about what height are we thinking they would be, the trees?
Pardon me?
What height do we think they'd get to in terms of?
They'll vary between 20 to 35 feet, I think, in that area.
Thanks.
Sure.
Mr. Moran?
My question was along the same lines. So how many mature trees are actually going to be lost from the project?
They did not provide a count of how many trees are going to be lost. So there's a pretty significant tree mass in there, but there's some really nice oak trees that they're proposing to save as part of that process. But I didn't do a count, so I can't answer that without going back out and counting.
Okay, no, that's not a problem. Do we think there'll be any kind of shade for the people who are to the west of this new building with a 30-foot structure, 3-story structure, who previously will have been getting fairly, direct sunlight, is now going to be quite a bit of shade, right? Is that going to create an impact, do we think? I mean, I don't know if that's within your scope, right? But is there going to be a change in the...
Yes, there will be a change. It's a 2.5-story building.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so as the sun moves along that property, there'll be some shade, but it's not going to cast a shadow directly from the into the west. It's going to be kind of more coming around the south side of it.
Okay.
If you wanted to ask the petitioner for a shade study, I'm sure they'd be more than happy to do that. I'm speaking for them, but if you want to see it,
Yeah.
it's certainly a reasonable request, I would think.
Yeah, and when you said the lighting was compliant, that's all well and good, right? But again, lights 30 feet up.
No, my understanding is that the lights are attached to the building, so they're going to cast out. They're not going to be, we don't have parking lot poles in this particular instance, so they're kind of casting out from the building itself.
Okay, so the neighbors to the west it's not going to look like Vegas or anything like that for them.
I don't think it'll look like Vegas, and I think that on the west side, the additional landscaping should screen screen that.
eventually.
As far as glare, glare's a really hard thing to evaluate just looking at a cut sheet or something like that. Glare's always an issue, and I know the ordinance kind of talks about anti-glare kind of conditions or characteristics. If we wanted to ask for additional information regarding glare, I imagine we'd have to do that and see what the manufacturer provides. Because you're right, you don't want it to just shoot right into people's windows directly. The planting will help. It'll help more when it matures, but it's probably something if we want to look at as well. But when they submit photometrics, we kind of look at the numbers on the ground, and it was zero on most of the sides. It was 0.1 of a foot candle on the east side at the parking lot, but there'll be a fence there as well, and putting a little bit more light on the edge of a parking lot's probably not a bad thing.
Not an issue, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Frankie.
Ms. Sharing?
Yes, I had a question on the west rear elevation. It's showing that there's like a balcony or a outside area over the garage doors. Is there going to be lighting out there? There's none depicted in the drawings, but I would be concerned how that light.
It shows on the rear elevation, not on the rendering.
So will that light?
You're in staff report if you go to the elevations.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I see
And they're about, I measured 16 feet 8 off grade.
Off the backside.
Yeah.
If you look at page 6 of 8 of the staff report, if you can hit the button so I can show.
Yeah, I got it.
I
got it.
He's got it.
Okay.
Okay.
So we think that the landscaping will block that light from casting over into the residential behind?
According to the foot candle diagram, it should not be putting light on the ground. Whether they'll see the light on the building, they most likely will until that planting matures, because they're not going to plant, trees are going to be 8 feet tall or something. So this is definitely going to go over it. Will you see light from those fixtures? Yes. Will it be a glare situation? I can't answer that.
Thank you.
Other questions for Mr. Frankie? Thank you, Mr. Frankie.
You're welcome.
Are you taking questions?
We will, not for the landscape architect, though. Thank you. All right, staff, Ms. Kelly, please.
So just to get back to the lighting, it is a residential kind of character lighting that is adjacent to each side of the garage door, the balcony entrance, and the front entrance at the door. The applicants did submit a lighting spec for the outdoor. That does show that it would be downcast. Therefore, I did not have a concern with that. That is something that the commission would like to provide direction on. They should.
But it sounds like it's, again, from the lighting study that was done and from the fixtures that they're using, that has been addressed, it sounds like, from staff report. Okay. However, I did believe I heard that the shade study may be something, since that is a significant change. All right. We obviously may have some more questions, and I know we have more fans than usual, so we will have some questions from members of the public, and we'll get to that in just a second. Please, Ms. Kelly.
Yes, just to outline the conditions that are recommended do include that all landscaping shall be permanently maintained. So that is a requirement of the city for any site development plan. And then I would also add that the stormwater regulations that would be further reviewed as part of any building permit. It does require stormwater and field development permit for this. Yeah.
All right, any other questions from the commission? We will turn over to the public for staff. Mr.
Got
Moran.
a couple, please, if you don't mind, for Ms. Kelly. When there's like plantings on the west side, but there's 9 different owners, who's accountable for keeping the vegetation in decent shape?
The applicants haven't indicated whether this is going to go to condo development or if they will keep it as an apartment. But it would be, if they do go to condo development, that would require review as a condo plat, and we would require that all landscaping be addressed as part of the ownership or condo association, yeah, declaration.
Okay, thank you. And did this warrant a traffic study?
No, it did not. I did check with the traffic engineer, and they are providing, the code requires 2 parking spaces per single-family residential or multifamily residential under a certain number, so they are providing the required parking on site.
Where do we think visitors to these 9 places are going to park?
Well, the drive aisle is pretty wide at 25 feet. There is also the commercial building to the to the east. If they want to look at a parking
The
study.
yoga studio is, that parking lot's full all the time now. I'm just telling you, I live on this street, so that is not a viable option.
That doesn't sound like a plan.
So, but that is not a requirement that they provide for the visitors. There's always on-street parking. Any single-family or townhouse development is required to provide 2 parking spaces.
Do those houses have big driveways and garages and stuff, or do most of the residents already park on the street?
I believe most of the residents already park on the street.
Right, exactly. So there's going to be a whole lot of room for guests, right?
I don't know that.
Okay.
I actually had the same question as Mr. Moore.
And I think that's a fair question. The other side, though, is I would say is they're providing parking for the residents. So the only one will be seeking parking as guests, which are less regular use than the people who are in the houses. Right. And I guess, the thing I do want to mention, and especially when public comment, is this is a permitted use. We have to factor that in.
Absolutely.
This is something that we've decided is within the rules of the zone. So again, what we're looking at is site plan.
You have a remit, though, to look out for things
100%.
like safety and things like
100%. 100%.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, we're still on the landscaping, right? We're not doing general questions yet. Is that
General
accurate?
questions.
General questions,
Yes.
sorry, okay. General questions. So I have several, as might be imagined. One simple one relative to the light fixture that was shown, which, by the way, I've used, quite like it, tech lighting, thumbs up. But it differs in character from what's shown in the drawings, right? So in the drawings, Whitney's mentioned several times that while it's sort of being reviewed under commercial, it's also a residential character of a project. The lighting shown has a more, residential character to it. The one that we've both used is relatively industrial, So I question that as a consistent, idea for the design, frankly. And it would actually cause me to have other questions about the design than in where it's headed. So another question I have then is, I heard someone say we're voting on the site proposal, and are we also voting on the building design tonight as well, or is it just the site? Okay, so the whole package, okay. Therefore, there's other questions.
I will note one thing, which is there is a very real likelihood that site plan subcommittee may be appropriate for this. So I want to make sure, just for all of us, that we do be conscious of time.
Sure.
Because we will have that, and I want to make sure we get.
So then I can maybe raise some questions, but we don't have to necessarily answer them. Okay. Yeah. So understanding, myself and Mr. Foreman also serve on the Architectural Review Board, which is at the moment primarily what is limited by code to residential development. This is somewhere in the middle. So there's. Keeping it short, thank you. Clearly the front of the building is facing east. First of all, I want to commend you on the presentation. It was very clear. It was very comprehensive. So you made everything. I really appreciate that. That makes it a lot easier for us. So thank you. I appreciate that the rules have been followed. The 25-foot landscape buffer, the 50-foot. I don't think it's helping in this case. I think it's a rule, but the 14-foot. Front alley thing to me is soundly unconvincing as a urban solution, right? So I apologize for that. That's an architectural feeling that I have. I'm not sure you had much choice, but it's a little strange that it faces the back of that commercial property. I don't think it's going to work as well as we might be thinking it might. But that might just be someone else's concern, frankly. I am worried about the Madge elevation. I don't think the Madge elevation, by my understanding, that's the front of the building, right? Like, I appreciate that you're doing efforts to the the long axis of the building on the east side, which will be seen from Brentwood, and I appreciate that, but that's not the front of the building. The front of the building is on Madge. And so I think the elevation, I think there's a second set of elevations that we're looking at, and they clearly take some distance from the first set of elevations, but I don't think that they're there. I would not vote yes with what I'm seeing tonight. It isn't enough. And then again, facing the west side, which, in a lot of the residential development, we see, you turn this side of the building and it kind of gets ignored, and sometimes we just have to live with that. I feel some more detail would be appropriate there as well. I appreciate the quality garage door you're showing, the lighting I just discussed. But it's essentially a very large 3-story sea of siding, and I think something should be done to address that. So those are thoughts. We can maybe take it further in the other meeting.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Carlin. Other, again, general questions for staff or for the applicant from the commission? And I don't mean to cut off debate. I just want to note that likely there will be more opportunities. Mr. Foreman.
Given that we're going likely to
It's what I'm hearing.
site plan review, which I'm supportive of, the two, partially to Mr. Carlin's point, the two other drawings that I think could be very informative for this conversation would be an actual full east and west elevation. There's somewhere between 5 and 8 feet of grade going up on the site. So these 3 buildings will step up a hill. Also an east-west section elevation, because like I said, on the way here, went and measured it. The existing that's still there, wood frame house, is 27 feet tall. This one, we're looking at 38 at the peak, but around
Mr. Foreman, can I, my apologies.
if we get a section east-west looking north of the existing house, the red brick to remain, your building, the 3-foot drop and the 12 to 14-foot yoga studio in context, I think that will help us understand the overall composition of what they're proposing.
And I think you just answered the question I was going to ask, because we've had so many discussions in this room about what we mean by elevations. And what I think I heard you say was an elevation from someone standing in one of these locations. What will they see?
Yes.
Rather than just a clean elevation of the project.
May or may not have doodled, but we'll get there in site plan.
Mr. Doring, did that make sense to you, what we were talking about with that?
So someone standing maybe at the edge of Brentwood Boulevard, looking towards our site and showing a size of a person standing somewhere in a parking lot.
So
Parking lot up against their building.
So if you're, 2 things, perspective, elevation, if they're taking a perspective view from maybe the southeast corner, or right at south side of Madge at Brentwood Boulevard, looking toward the site, and a perspective 3-dimensional would be informative, but at the very least, a section elevation, a true elevation looking north, that we can judge relative heights, including the grade drop of about 3 feet between your site and the yoga studio. That existing concrete wall's about 3 feet tall.
Oh, let me repeat it, because.
We'll talk after.
Perfect, I'll take that.
All right. Anything else, Mr. Foreman?
I encourage site plan review.
I'm getting that vibe. Other members of the commission? We have numerous members of the public here this evening. Does anyone wish to address the commission on this, just so I can let you know what we're talking about, since not all of you may be regular viewers? Site Plan Subcommittee is an opportunity for us to discuss this in between our formal public meetings in greater detail with the applicant, so that we can get more information, such as additional renderings and elevations and things like that. So that is most likely what the recommendation will be of the members of the commission. We have an alderman with us this evening. Could you please state your name for the record and let us know what you'd like to know?
Steve Lockmiller, a resident.
Resident this evening.
Of 8831 Madge. It's good to hear that this is going to site plan. I think a lot of the neighbors have concerns due to the building height compared to the other homes along that. And frankly, the side-facing Madge needs a lot of work. It does not blend into the neighborhood whatsoever. The concerns about parking, I know they're meeting their guidelines and exceeding them, but this is all private, garage parking. Where do visitors go? Madge is a street that only has parking on one side. Directly across from this building is a business that takes up parking. So they would have to align one side of the street, and our residents use that pretty heavily. You know, the other concern is density here. There's a lot of building on little land, and with that density, I'd kind of like to hear from our fire department whether they would have proper access in the event of an emergency to be able to get into the way these buildings are oriented if there were to be a fire or some type of EMS requirement. So those are some of the concerns, and I'm sure I and my residents will be at the site plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lockmuller. Other members of the public wish to address the commission on this. And I should have noted, and I apologize because it's in my notes, please do limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Okay, sure. My name is Suzanne Woodard. I'm the owner of 2525 South Brentwood, which is the building behind the site. So it's that building, and then the parking lot is right behind it. Our building is the corner of the site, and then the parking lot. So my concern and questions are the north side, which really hasn't been addressed. I haven't heard the fencing, what sort of buffer will be between their property and our property. The site plan indicates that there might be some landscaping, but it's not clear. And then it also looks like there might be some sort of air conditioning units. That was kind of glossed over a little bit because it said it was in between the buildings. So I have questions on that. Those were my main questions: fencing, buffer, landscaping. I understand based on what Ms. Kelly said that it's a 10-foot setback. So, you know, we do have some definite questions about that part of the project.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And do I recall correctly, Ms. Kelly, so the air conditioning is ground air conditioning. It is not screened because it is residential grade, and that's not a requirement of code for us.
The zoning code does say allow for detached accessory structures, including mechanical equipment, to go to 5 feet from the rear property line, and they have indicated that this would be more than 5 feet from the rear property line. Also, under the Planned Development Overlay District, the 10-foot setback can be adjusted where adjacent to existing PD overlay district by the site plan approval. So, yeah.
Maybe something to have a conversation about in subcommittee of whether screening would be something the applicant would consider for the one set of units that's basically facing another property rather than just between your own properties. So something to consider.
I would also add that we have sat down with the fire department to review the plans, and they did not have any concerns.
Okay, with 25 foot, they're
Yeah.
able to get back there. Is there, yeah.
With the adoption of the 2024 codes, the townhouses will be required to be sprinkled to provide additional fire suppression. Yeah.
Good to know. Any other questions? Thank you.
Hello, my name is Sean Leib. I'm also with 2525 South Brentwood Boulevard. There was one additional comment with disturbance and potential tree removal at the northwestern side. There is a significant grade difference between our property and theirs. Wondering if there's any discussion of a retaining wall. Also, it's my understanding that in that area there is a sinkhole. So wondering if this kind of disturbance is going to cause some difference in the water management of that area specifically.
On the northwest corner of the property you're talking about?
There does. We have in some areas we have 7-8 feet of difference. And so just kind of wondering if that's been addressed with this. It's not clear from the drawing.
Thank you. Ms. Kelly, we'll take a look at that as well.
Yeah, the engineer can address that, but the sinkhole is actually just west of this property, from what they have indicated. But, sir, Mr. Doring, would you like to address that?
Yes, I apologize. We don't need a retaining wall at the northwest corner of our property. And we do have a 10-foot setback, and the building to the north of us actually sits right close to the building line, and it's not even a residential zoning, is my understanding. The sinkhole actually sets on the residential parcel to our west, which is the bottom of the screen, and it's significantly onto that property. It's not onto our property. What we did in our design is we tried to limit the amount of water that went to the sinkhole, and actually we reduced the amount of water that runs to that sinkhole when we're completed with this project that goes there today, which is a good thing, okay? Half of our lot used to go that way. Now we're catching it on our parking lot curb, and we're bringing it down to Madge Avenue to the storm sewer system that runs to the east across Brentwood Boulevard. So it's an improvement to the sinkhole situation to the west of our property.
So the grading will be north to south for that parking strip or the driveway strip there?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Other members of the public? Please.
Hi, my name is Catherine Wang, Hwang, and I live on Madge Avenue. So my concern, as I think I talked to some of my neighbors, was also that if I step out of my house and look at this new structure, and while I think it's good overall for the city, for the residents of Madge Avenue, when you step out, the front of the structure does not face the Madge Avenue residents, that the street. So you're looking at not only potentially a difference in elevation between the existing houses and the top of these planned townhouses, but the concern is also the construction when they actually perform the building. Where are they going to park? Are they going to jam up the street? I mean, where are the workers actually going to bring in all the materials and park? Because the only place they can park is at one side of Madge Avenue. And how long is this going to last? A year or more? I mean, so these are some of the concerns: the elevation, the noise, the construction period. I know it's, we said it's for young families, but are these considered luxury apartments? And, you address the issue of condos. I mean, what is the rental going to be like? Is it going to be in line with, say, Brentwood Forest condominiums, or is it going to be much higher than that? So these are just some of the concerns, in addition to the ones that Steve mentioned.
Thank you, Ms. White. Any other members of the public? Sorry, please.
Sorry, real quickly, what I didn't explain, these will be condominiums, okay? So they'll be fee simple, they won't be lot lines, so there'll be an association and bylaws when the condominium plat is ran through the city, and the maintenance of all exterior property will be borne by the HOA association, which means the people that live there give that. And I had one other thing that Ms. Swang just brought up there I was going to address. I'm sorry. And the pricing on this is, we envision these starting at $550,000, okay? So just for your information. Thank you.
Any other members of the public wishing to address the commission?
I'm sorry, could you please address, during the construction period, the noise and where all the workers are going to be parking and bringing in materials, et cetera?
If you know that, Mr. Doring.
So I think the city will require us to park on site, have our construction stuff stored on site. We haven't done that yet, but that's what the city should require us. We will make noise during the day.
And you have, as many construction, there are limits to that, and you basically build it in series rather than trying to do it all at once.
Actually, right now, we're trying to do all three at once.
Okay.
Okay, and I did want to bring that up to you too for the thing, but that is subject to change too. Okay, but right now we'd like to build all three at once. We think we can get them all built at the same time and be done and out of there and sell them. So,
okay. Thank you.
I will just add the code requires that construction hours on Monday through Friday is 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. On Saturday, it's 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. and no work that is audible from the exterior is to be done on Sunday without the express permission of the Director of Planning and Development.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Kelly. Other comments from the public? Please.
Hi, I'm Ann Croy, and I live at 8834 Madge. I think one of my concerns would be, have there been any traffic studies done? Because the intersection at Madge and Brentwood is already one to be avoided. And you're adding, we're already looking at people cutting through on Madge that want to avoid the Manchester-Brentwood intersection. So just wondering if any traffic studies have been done.
My understanding from staff was that no, there was reviewed by the traffic engineer, but no full study was needed because of the scope of the project. Is that correct, Ms. Kelly? Did I summarize that?
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Any other members of the public? Anyone online? What is the mood of the commission? Oh, sorry, please. Sorry if I missed you.
That's okay. I was kind of late in seeing it. So Faith Beckerman, I live at 8823 Madge Avenue. You know, that property over there has kind of always been a little, you know, what's underneath there and all that. Is that land stable enough to have a piece of property this large on there? And then they were showing the brick or whatever. We're all brick houses. I mean, red brick. So that really wouldn't fit in with what they're looking at. So I was just wondering if that's really stable back there enough to hold all that once they start going at it. So
I believe that's the engineering study that's been done has would allow for that. But I will leave that up to the city and the construction plan to determine.
okay, thank you.
Mr. Moore.
Mr. Deering, I have a question. On the development plan, I noticed both buried electrical service to the building as well as reference to the overhead service that's existing. Has there been any discussion about burying those lines along the eastern property line?
No. All our service lines will be underground. We have no intent to bury them along the eastern property line. We don't really have space, nor we do have the finances to bury them. They're fairly significant wires, like you've indicated.
Looking at a photograph, it is significant. It's something that I needed to bring up.
I appreciate it.
Anything else? No. All right. What is the will of the commission? It sounds like there is interest in carrying this over to site plan subcommittee.
I think that would be wise. There's enough issues to cover.
Is there a motion?
I would move to, I don't know what to say. I would move to carry this over to a site plan subcommittee meeting, the next one available.
Which would be, Ms. Kelly, or, sorry, Jessica, do you know when's the next date?
February 25th.
February 25th
Hope it would not be November, February 25th.
at 6 p.m.
If folks could check their calendars to make sure that we actually can have significant
Chairman, I'm traveling, but I do virtual meetings all day long. I can call in if you set up a Zoom.
think we could probably manage that. Does the boardroom have the ability to do that?
I
Sorry.
address this.
Please.
We've got significant issues, personal issues going on at this point. That might be a little quick for us to make.
Sure.
Okay, so we'd appreciate maybe we could push it off a little further, actually.
Okay, well then,
The next opportunity would be basically next public session, next public meeting.
March 11th.
March 11th. I think that all things considered, from our perspective, it'd probably be better.
Okay.
Understandable.
Thank you.
Let me just ask, is that would be another meeting just like this one, correct?
Yeah.
So I think that the site plan subcommittee is probably a better forum to do that kind of discussion. It's going to get detailed. I can tell you for sure it's going to get detailed. And I'm seeing some nodding. So I understand that pushes it back even farther, and I respect the challenges you're facing with personal issues. But I don't know that the open session is maybe the best place to have those discussions. So if the next site plan is the one, I think we should be that one.
March 25th.
understand, I think that perhaps what normally is practice is that there will be more conversation between the staff and the applicant for any of the other issues that may be outstanding, so that we can at least touch base on this at our next regular meeting and see if there's been any changes that might, I expect that we, to your point, we still may need to be going into site plan sub-review, or subcommittee, excuse me, but at least see what can be done in that month.
Yeah, as long as we understand, just as long as it's understood that I think we probably will end up doing that. So, yeah.
So you had a motion. I think we changed motion. Can you, yeah, sorry, let's go back.
I would move to carry this over to the next regular meeting, which is what you're suggesting.
March 11th.
March 11th.
March 11th.
Yeah.
Okay. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Moore. Think that we actually will do a roll call vote on this one. Sorry.
Okay, Jack Shelton,
Yes.
Jeff Moore,
Yes.
Matt Foreman,
Yes.
Carl Carlin,
Yes.
Brian Nolan,
Yes.
Lisa Shearing,
Yes.
Mark Favazza,
Yes.
Paul Moran, yeah. So
All
thank
right.
you very much.
Thank you. All right, appreciate the input tonight on this as well. And as folks, again, just to recap, this will be carried over to our next public session in a month, and there may be further discussion at that point. So thank you very much for the presentation this evening.
Thank you.
All right. Our next item of business is the aldermanic report. Seeing no alderman, I don't believe, well, seeing no alderman who was here for an alderman, he was hiding. Look at him.
There's two.
If he's here as a resident this evening, I see no alderman then.
Well, there is another one over here.
Hi, that's right. Yeah. Director's report.
Yes, so our next meeting is March 11th. We do have 3 other projects that have come in. We might have a couple of text amendments as well. So please mark your calendars and let us know you're available.
And please RSVP.
Yes.
Early. All right. Anything else, Ms. Kelly?
That's it.
Only one thing for the good of the order, which I thought it was a little earlier. It turns out it is May. In May, we will take nominations for officers for the commission, and we vote in June. Ms. Bilderback's down here to remind me, so thank you, Jessica, for looking it up and finding out when it was. I thought it was early in the year. I was wrong. Any other items of business? With that, we stand adjourned. Thank you, everybody.